So welcome to today's session. One of my students advised me that I hadn't taught forward bends for quite a while. So that's going to be the theme of today's session. And we'll do our regular warm-up so that we're well prepared for forward folding. And there will be alternate rotations or twists sprinkled in between the forward bends. So let's begin by taking a place on the mat, lying down with your legs bent and your feet on the floor, and we'll do a simple breathing exercise. And to be well prepared, we do need a few props, and one of them will be a chair, and that's for one of the standing twists. And then I have 2 blankets, a block, and optional belt. Yes. So anything that you need to gather in those props, now is the time. So I've taken my reclining position on the mat, and I'm going to bring my hands around, cup my hands around my lower ribs, just at the bottom of my rib cage, and then start to breathe in a little bit more strongly than my normal rhythm. And opening out the ribs on the inhalation, and then letting them soften to center on the exhalation. If I add an exhale with my mouth slightly open, I think I can go in a little deeper to feel that breath in my abdomen and pelvis. So inhaling through the nostrils and broad and wide ribs, and then exhaling through my mouth. And let's take 3 or 4 more breaths like that. It's just such a beautiful thing to emphasize breathing. And when you're inhaling, you might feel the breath into the back ribs as well, where the ribs meet the floor, expansive in the side ribs and the back ribs. Rest your hands over your navel center, and then let's do some breathing with a tilt of the pelvis. So when you inhale, move the tailbone away from you, the pubic bone away from you, and feel the breath in that abdominal pelvic region. And when you exhale, draw the navel back towards the spine and tilt the tailbone upwards. And go back and forth between those 2 movements, between inflating the abdomen and deflating. Inhalation is still full, and it contacts the side ribs as well. And exhalation is also full, and the abdomen scoops in that posterior tilt of the pelvis. All right, and then after these breath exercises, drop your arms down away from the sides of your body. Actually bring them up in line with your shoulders, and we'll do a spine rotation. Bring your knees in towards your chest. And if you hold at the front of your knees and you bring your thighs in a little closer still, want to keep that nice compact position as we take the knees over to the right side and anchor the left side. I'm going to rotate my head, look left as my knees go right, bring them back in, and right over to the left side. Right side is pressing down. And let's do just a few of these. The challenge is to keep the adductors working, the inside thigh muscles, so the knees and the thighs don't move apart. The next time you bring your knees over to one side, let's roll over onto that side and come up into all fours on your mat. I have my doubled up mat, so that's a good knee protection for me. And you might want to have a doubled up mat yourself. All fours kneeling and straightening through the arms. And let's go through the retraction of the shoulder blades. So when we retract, we draw the shoulder blades in towards the center spine. And when we protract, we move the shoulder blades out towards the outer edges of them. Retraction, the shoulder blades move in towards the center, and I think of them making contact with the lungs, and then opening the shoulder blades out to the side. Shoulder blades meet the surface of your skin a little bit more. And we haven't really moved the spine very much, but let's add that movement. And exhaling, lifting the spine up towards the ceiling. Chin comes in, navel comes in. Inhale, drop the spine, look out towards the horizon in front of you. And moving back and forth between those potentials. It's a really lovely image to think of the abdomen being like soft clay. So when you lift the spine up towards the ceiling, the abdomen scoops right up towards the backbone. And one more looking out. And then let's take the loading off the hands and draw the buttocks back towards the heels. Maybe your forward bending isn't there completely just yet. You can keep the buttocks a little elevated. And then press your finger pads more and lift your wrists a little bit off the floor. My arms are straight, my elbows are straight. And then let's come off the hips and bring the hips forward again and lean in so your chest is a little forward of your wrists perhaps now. And then lean back and go all the way back as much as you like, folding back. Inhale, coming forward, never without the breath, and exhale, rolling back. In this warm-up phase, I like to add a stronger position. So let's balance on your hands and just your left knee. Bring your right knee towards your chest and your head towards your right knee. Extend that leg back behind you without lifting the hip. And let's do that for 2 more times. Long leg behind you, looking out. And then a crunch, thigh towards your ribs. Then right knee to the floor, balanced on 2 hands and 2 knees again. Start on your left side. Lift your left knee and bring your thigh in towards your chest. Extend that leg away. Look out. And once again. When the knee comes in, then you can scoop the abdomen again. And then 2 knees supporting, 2 hands supporting. Take the load off your wrists once more. Draw your buttocks back towards your heels. Draw your elbows back towards your knees. Lift your hands and open and close them a few times. And get your fingers working. Good. And one more bit of work for your warm up here. When you lift your right knee off the floor, then lift your left hand off the floor. Right knee bends in, left elbow bends in, tuck in, and then extend out. Extend the limbs in opposite directions, and then bring them back. With your breath. Let's go one more time. Extension, pulling in, and balancing 2 hands and 2 knees. Second side, left knee comes in first, then right elbow comes in, and then alternating extension and flexion. I'm just noticing the difference between the two sides, and I've been doing this several times this week already, and it's not too drastic a difference. Last extension, and then right hand to the floor, left knee to the floor, and fold up neatly towards buttocks, towards your heels. How about supporting your head onto your hands this time? Make double fists, one on top of the other. Rest your forehead on your top hand. Relax your shoulders, relax your belly. I think there's one more movement that we can do here that's very good as part of a warm-up. It's going to ask a little bit more stamina of you. Tuck your toes under and lift your knees off the floor, but have a look back and have them only maybe 2 centimeters off the floor. Hold that pose, straighten through your arms to whatever degree you can, and then give it a break into downward facing dog pose. Not too much relaxation in that break. We're going to come back to the hover, knees a little bit off the floor, draw your navel up, and coming back, downward facing dog pose. And third time, and the knees just a tiny bit off the floor. Straighten through your elbows as much as you can. Draw up through the navel center. And then we'll stay in dog pose this time and pedal your feet a little bit. In dog pose, sometimes this is called walking the dog. Good. And then from here, do take a walk forward and walk your hands back and come up. Bring your head up the very last part, up to standing. Good. Let's take a little review of forward folding. So if I bring my fingertips into the crease of my hips, I'm going to bend my knees a little bit, just a fraction, and then hinge forward. If I keep my fingers here, then gradually they're just disappearing into the crease at that hip fold. And then there's an option here. You can go a little deeper. Keep the abdomen drawn up into the back body, and you'll feel the lower part of your spine in flexion. You can bring your hands down your legs to whatever extent you can at this point in the session. Bring your head down, release your head down. And then if your back is strong and you want to challenge yourself, bring your arms forward and the upper arms alongside your ears. Press into your heels and inhale and come all the way up. And exhale, arms down. Let's do that again. We don't need that cue about where we're bending from. Just leave your arms loose by your side and forward folding. The knees are soft as you come into your forward bend. Let your arms just hang and dangle down towards the floor. Crown of the head down, buttock bones up. Draw the navel up.
Keep your weight strong through your forefoot and your heel, and then you can try that variation of bringing your arms forward, or just keep your arms down by your side and roll to standing, and inhale, and all the way up. Beautiful. And forward folding. And we do a little bit of that in chair pose. So chair pose, feet slightly apart. Take your knee bend. Take your hinge forward. Bring your arms up alongside your cheeks. And then take as much of a squat here as you like, moving your shin bones just right below your knee. Move your shin bones back a little bit. Extend your arms out further. Lift your tailbone up. Beautiful. Inhale and come up. And then let's do that with a challenge for your balance. We always want to do a little bit of balancing exercise in each of our practices, and here it comes. So there's chair pose, sitting back in your imaginary chair, reach for that seat of the chair, and then lift up your heels. Stay forward on your feet, so the backs of your toes and your forefoot very active. And can you keep the heel raised and come all the way up? And exhale down. I don't know, maybe I just snuck in a balancing pose for you. So let's do it all over again so that you're well prepared for it this time. See if that makes a difference. Chair pose. Heel raise. Stay towards the big toe side of your foot. And come up on that rise. And all the way down. Good. And then that took some concentration. So give your arms a bit of a shake out, your bum a bit of a shake out, your legs. And then let's go to the wall. And when your back is resting on the wall, it's your buttocks and your back of your head. It's a good check for your posture. So your head sits right over your shoulders. Walk your feet out about 35 or 40 centimeters away from the wall. Bring your hands onto your thighs and take a knee bend. And as you slide down, stop at the point where the knees are just right over the ankles. Keep your good posture at the wall. Your legs, where your hands rest onto your thighs, you can feel they're very energized, those muscles, your quadriceps. And then from here, bring your arms forward and up until your arms are as straight as you can. If your hands are near to the wall, you might touch thumb, index finger to the wall. And then we're going to release from the pose slowly and lower the arms and straighten the legs. Good. Where you are, give your quadriceps a little bit of a shake out with your hands. However, we're going to do this one more time. So we want to engage those thigh muscles again and take a knee bend. This time I'm going to time us for a minute just for general information. And the timing has started. And we'll go for a minute. And if you need to come out at any point, of course you will. You'll straighten your legs. Leave your arms by your side. We don't really need them for the pose. And just as a reminder to relax your shoulders. Drop your shoulders. Easy breathing. And probably good to give you a halfway warning. And that is halfway. And we're almost there. And then pressing into your feet and slide up the wall. And away from the wall, give your legs a good shake out. Shake a leg. Well done. And then let's stay with the wall. And this is a really lovely combination of a strengthening pose and a balancing pose. So we've got our position at the wall, and all of my back is in touch with the wall, including the back of my head. I'm not going to step out as far as I did, maybe at the most a foot away from the wall. Then balance your weight onto your left leg, bring your right knee up, and place your right foot on the wall. Now that's a really good beginning, and we'll see what we do in the next step. Press your wall foot, that's your right foot, into the wall, and you're going to do a push away from the wall with the whole backside of your body leaving the wall at the same time. And head and shoulders and buttocks away from the wall. And then slowly come back to the wall and all of those parts at the same time. Try that again. And push away. And push back. What is working here? There's the strong standing leg, your weight-bearing leg, but also your hamstrings on the raised leg. And push away one more time. And back. And let's switch sides. And we've got a baseline now. Just notice what this side is like. Balancing on your right leg, left foot on the wall. How high are you bringing that leg up? Well, I notice my hamstrings will complain if I bring it too high. So it's just below my buttock. And then moving away from the wall in one unit, head and shoulders and buttocks. Sometimes it's hard to do these balancing poses and talk at the same time. And then moving back to the wall and away. Good. Notice if your shoulders are tensing up. Do they need to? Probably not. And last time, away and coming back. And a really good pose to incorporate in your practice if you're doing yoga a couple of times a week. And then move away from the wall entirely, shake your legs out, and grab your chair. There's a series of poses which are called Marichyasana. Marichyasana 1, 2, 3, 4, or ABCD. And some of them are twists and some of them are forward bends. This is a twist, and we're doing it as a standing twist and using the chair. So you have the experience of doing a twist where you're not crunched up. Sometimes that's what happens. Now, I might not have mentioned in the beginning that it would be useful here to have a yoga block too. I'm going to place my block onto the seat of the chair, and I'm approaching the chair right side facing the wall, and balancing on my left leg, I'll bring my right foot up onto the block on the chair. Taking pause for a moment, look at your standing leg and be quite close in to the chair. If that standing leg, that weight-bearing leg, is close in, you can move the thigh back into the back of the leg. And then that means that your foot, your knee, your thigh are right underneath their hip, not bowing forward. Then bring your right hand onto the wall. And I've placed it a little above shoulder height and move it back slightly, and you've already come into your rotation. Let's go left hand on the outside of your right knee, and then use your two hands and your arms to turn your trunk towards the wall. Keeping your left hand on your right knee is a really good movement so the knee doesn't drop to the wall or in towards the center of the room. So it stays in line with its thigh bone. And all those alignment points are really important. And we're turning from left to right and squaring the chest off with the wall a little bit more. All right, and that's side one. Let's go opposite. And right leg is your weight-bearing leg standing near to the chair. Left foot up onto the block. Settle in. And then left hand onto the wall. Right hand on the outside of your left knee. Then draw yourself up to your full good posture, your full height, and then looking towards the wall. And back a little bit if you can, and rotating your head and your neck. Notice if your right thigh has come forward, you'll have more weight onto your forefoot. Bring your weight back onto your right heel, and then stand tall and straight on that right leg. Look around. And using the hands and the arms to turn a little bit more. And then let's go back to the original side. And we're going to change things up a little bit. So now it's your left leg on the block. Your right leg is your standing leg. And we're going to turn towards the center of the room. So turn a little, turn your head, turn your shoulders. Bring your left hand onto your left waist. And then turn as much as you can, bringing the left shoulder back. Extend your right arm out, and it's parallel with the floor, in line with your shoulder. And I can bring it back. I've got that flexibility to bring my hand back against the wall. Now stand tall again. Stretch up. Bring that left shoulder back. And if you have the flexibility to take the next step, bring your left arm back so it's in line with your right arm and back towards the wall. Look back over your shoulder. Good. Let it all go. And last side. Now it's your inside leg, that's your balancing leg. Left leg balancing. Right foot up onto the block. The turn is in towards the center of the room. Bring your right arm back behind you. Good. And if you can, then extend your left arm. And so both of your arms extended out from your shoulders and onto the wall. And we're turning away from the wall. Keep your right knee in so it doesn't drop out. And look back if you can. Good. Let it all go. Release and come down. And we're finished with the chair entirely. So let's put that away. And we're ready to do some forward stretches. I have I've stacked up my my blankets. So I have 2 3-fold blankets, and that's going to be a platform that I sit on. I'm going to do a little awareness exercise first, and This is in a position where you're facing the wall, propped up on your blankets, with your legs straight out in front of you. When you sit on your support, whether it's a bolster, or blanket, even a block, you want just the buttock bones supported and not very much of the backs of your thighs. So I'm going to move the supports back a little bit to get that configuration. And then my feet at the wall in this basic yoga pose, Dandasana. So everybody's bodies are different. I can sit this way and be sitting pretty straight, but if you find that your back is bowing, then bring your hands onto the floor next to you or onto your blankets, and then use your arms to help you, kind of like an extension of your spine, to help you lift your chest up, your spinal column up, and bring back some of the natural lumbar curve, the base of your spine. Feel your feet pressing into the wall and file away that sensation where your legs are fully extended, right to your heel bones stretching out. And then once you've got that in mind, or in your body, probably is a better way to say it, let's take a seated position away from the wall now. We don't want to get trapped by the wall. And away from the wall in Dandasana again. So there's my leg extension, my spinal lift, and imagine that you've got your heels pressing into the wall and the balls of your feet. So it just is a way of lengthening the back line of the legs from your buttocks to your heels. Let's take Janu Shirsasana. So keeping your left leg straight, bend your right leg in. Now I'm pretty supple in this movement, so if you are not, if you need some support, here's the yoga block to support, or a folded blanket will do the same thing. So Janu Shirsasana, you want to take that bent leg, knee back as much as you can. I'm just realizing I have done some practice this morning and I'm not needing as much support underneath my buttocks. So there we are. So your knee comes back a little bit. That means you can take your right foot out away from your left thigh. And there we are. We're going to turn towards the bent leg and do a variation here just to lengthen the side body, because we haven't done very much of that. So we're turning, swinging around and facing towards the right leg, and your hands on either side of the right leg or right knee. And then from there, keep your hands pressing down, lift your chest up. Your chest is high and light at this point, so you can turn into another rotation. And you've done a lovely combination, in a way, of a forward stretch and a rotation. And then let's just bring the hands back so they face forward in front of your right foot. Support yourself onto your hands out a distance from your right foot. And then lift up again. Keep extending through the left leg and out through the heel, as though that heel was still against the wall. And then do one further rotation and bring your hands on the outside of one hand on either side of your left leg. This is the more traditional approach to Janu, but we've done a nice job of warming up the side body in the other variations. And step your hands forward little by little. This will be the first round of Janu Shirsasana, so we don't have to put everything into it. And then walk your hands back and change legs. Extending your right leg out, bend your left leg out to the left side. If you are more delicate in your knees, you can keep the left foot further out from you, and do take support on the outer knee if you need that. Left foot is out away from the right thigh, and we're going to go through those 3 movements again. First, bending over your bent leg and your hands on either side of the left knee, and then walk your hands forward just a little, press your hands down, lift your ribs up, and turn your ribs a little bit more towards the left side. You can feel that through your belly muscles, where you are working those breathing exercises this morning. Good. Can you bring your right buttock a little closer to the floor? And then walk your hands so that you're facing in the midline of your body towards your left foot. Walk your hands out, press your hands down, lift your chest up. Bring the armpits, the underarms, a little more forward. And then take the further step around to the right side so your hands line up with your right leg. Press them down, lift up, turn your belly muscles, so your lower ribs, your navel center, your low belly turning from left to right. And then release, and let's go the next round of Janu Shirsasana. Left leg straight, right leg bend. Once more, take that right knee back a little bit more and support yourself just with your left hand down alongside your left leg. Press your hand down, press your fingertips down, bring your right arm up towards the ceiling. Reach for the ceiling, and that arm is long from your underarm to your fingertips, and then cast that arm out. If you can, reach across to the outside of your left leg. You could be on the outer shin bone or the outer ankle or the outer arch of your left foot. Then pull back and lift up. Pull back and lift up, and your trunk will be lighter like it was in the standing twist and in your turn towards the left. Look to the left. Relax the right groin. Relax the right thigh muscle. And then turn to look straight on with your left leg and hold along your leg wherever you're able to, knee, shin bone, or your foot. Pull back and lift up again. See if you can make the hip crease deep, like we did in the standing forward fold, by moving the back of the left thigh towards the floor. And then we're ready to release from that side. And both legs straight, Dandasana, push out through your heels, bend your left leg in. Move the left knee back slightly. Keep the foot separate from the right thigh. And then prop yourself up onto your right hand. Reach across in that lateral movement over to the outside of your right leg. And then press your hand against the leg or your ankle or holding the outer arch of your foot. Pull back and lift up and turn. The more I turn, the more my groin tightens up. So I have to remind myself to release where I can and then work where I can. And then let's take the last part of this and facing straight on with your right leg. Hold the outer shin, inner shin, outer ankle, inner ankle, or your foot on either side. And then pull up again, lift up, And very good work. And then extend left leg with the right. Good. Push out through your heels. Bring your hands next to you and lift your chest. Just imagine a little back bend in your upper part of your back as you retract your shoulder blades into the center of your spine. Chin up, look up. Lovely. And then release. And let's take one of those Marichiyasana poses. So I'm going to keep my left leg bent, straight and bend my right leg in and bring the heel all the way back to what I'm sitting on, which is a folded blanket. And or bring that foot in against its buttock bone. And then if you hold the shin bone, we'll get that nice lifted feeling through our chest, through our shoulders. Beautiful. Support yourself with your left hand down alongside your left hip. Draw up through those left ribs. And then take your right arm up towards the ceiling. When your arm is fully lifted, it's helping you stretch all that lateral line on your right side. Then come halfway down to the floor in your forward fold. Open your right leg out in front of your right knee, your right arm out in front of your right knee, and press your arm against your knee and lift up your chest. The further movement to this position that you're in is to bend that elbow and bring your hand back so your right arm is in front of your right knee or your shin bone. You've bent your elbow and you're bringing your right hand back behind you. This can be a bound pose if now you release your left hand and you bring your left hand to your right hand. And today, at this moment in time, I'm able to grasp my hands behind me. But what you might still do is have that open position if that elbow bending isn't in your vocabulary today, and just press against your knee and lift up. And then release, and we're ready for the second side. And that might be a whole different story, and it often is. Bending your left leg, your left heel against your left buttock. Support yourself on your right hand. Draw yourself up to your full and best posture. And then bring the left arm up towards the ceiling. So there's always a little bit more of lift there. Put your mind to opening up the lateral body. And then cast that arm forward. And it's as though your hand is forward of your right foot. Then take that arm in front of your left leg and out to the side. At this point, you're not quite sure what's going to happen next. So explore that territory of turning your thumb down, palm is facing away from you, and then bend that elbow and bring it back. Like I said, I don't know what's going to happen on this side. This is my tighter side. So as much as possible, bring your hand back behind you and your right hand behind you. And I just got it. And you might still be at that stage where you're forward folding and your arm is straight out to the side or even bent and coming back. Let's let it all go now and extend the legs forward. Give them a little bit of a thump, a shake out. And let's take, I call these mental health breaks when you're doing forward bending. Take a moment and just lie on your back, off your supports. Bend your knees into your chest and rock a little bit side to side on your lower back, on your back waist. So this is just a short break, so we're going to come back up and back onto your support. pop your buttocks up onto your support. And we'll do the very classic pose, Upavista Konasana in Sanskrit, or commonly called the splits. So when you have your legs in this open position, there was a day where I could have my legs almost at 180 degrees. Is that a functional movement? I would say definitely not. So bring your legs in a little bit closer, and you'll have more access to working the pose where it is really helpful in the upper hamstrings. So press not so much the backs of the knees towards the floor, but the upper back thighs. And we're pressing down there, and that lets us sit very neatly onto our sitting bones better. Flex your feet. Imagine that you had the wall in front of each foot and pushing the heel into the wall to extend the back leg line. Bring your hands next to you. Use your hands next to you to draw yourself up tall, crown of the head towards the ceiling. Good. And then let's take the other variation and see if we can increase the depth of the hip fold at the tops of the thighs, coming forward. And read your body and keep the pose safe by moving into the hip flexion in the hip crease rather than rounding your back or your shoulders. See if we can scoop the abdomen a little bit from the low belly to the navel center to the sternum. Tiptoe your fingers out a little bit more if that's there for you. And then draw your hands back and come all the way up and bring the legs forward. Preparing for Baddha Konasana. Bend your knees in, keep the soles of your feet together, and draw the heels in to explore what the pose is like today. So I brought my heels all the way to my pubic bone, and that gives me a pretty extraordinary groin and inner knee stretch. And if we cup our hands around the feet, it's so simple a thing to draw up, to lift up, to lengthen up. There's that front line of the body that starts at the pits of your legs and all the way up to the pits of your arms. Bring the sides of your chest forward and tilt your chin and look up. The chest is high and bright and still relaxed. And then releasing your hands, move your feet out away from you. You can take them a good distance away until we get a diamond shape of our legs. And then from that hip crease again, and you can explore it for yourself with your fingers, come forward. So as you come into forward fold, the tailbone's lifting. The tailbone lifting will take you on the very front edges of your sitting bones. That's where we want to be. And then I've rested my lower arms onto my lower legs. It's not quite comfy because there's still a groin stretch, but it's very supportive. And then lead with your breastplate and bring it up and forward. Beautiful. And then grab the outside of your knees for a bit of support. Lift them, place the soles of your feet on the floor, and give your legs a shake out again. All right, so we can take these poses to the wall, in legs up the wall, and we'll do that in a moment. But before we do, I'd like to emphasize one side bending movement. And I don't know if I mentioned this in your yoga props in the beginning, but it could be handy to have a belt. Not absolutely necessary. So if we take Janu Shirsasana again and have the left leg straight and the right knee out to the side, we're going to replicate the splits on the left leg and the left leg out to the side much further. So we've got this maximum space between the legs. Then rest your right hand onto your right leg. Keep your left hand onto your left leg, but turn your palm upwards. That movement that lets you roll your shoulder out and bring that lung forward, the left lung forward. And then we're going to do the side bending movement over the left leg as far as we can go on this particular moment in time. And then we'll stop there. Then you did well with the side bend. Can we make it into a lift again? So press your arm down, bring your left shoulder blade forward, and cast your gaze upwards. When we do that, it tends to open up the tops of the chest and the lungs. And then let's go second side. We're going to have a few passes at this. And when your right leg is stretched away from your left leg, maximum distance, we're going to weight the left leg and keep the left hip and the left hip down. Press your hand down onto the thigh, and then the right arm, palm upwards, right palm upwards, and then leaning out as far as we can go into that movement. And going slowly and in consideration of opening the chest again, bring the right shoulder blade forward. Start to lift your chin, look up, move your chest up, and that left hip is still towards the floor. And then inhale and come up. Let's go back to the original side, and I'm going to leave it to you about whether you want to use a belt in this pose. And if you are to use the belt, I'm going to slip it on your left foot and hold the left hand as near to the foot as you can. Now, I'm already there with holding my foot, so I'm going to take that palm up position and hold along my left leg and grab my foot. And then this time we're going to free up the right arm and bring the right arm up. Think about it that you, in using your body sense here, your kinesthetic sense, you want the arms to line up. So the right arm is probably a little forward of the left arm. Lift it higher and bring it back slightly. Then move the left shoulder blade in. Open up your left lung towards the ceiling. Bring your right lung back. All right, and then we come all the way up and over for the last side. Where you're either using the belt on your foot or moving your hand along towards your foot. You're probably a little closer this time. I certainly am. And then I'm going to hold on my big toe with the palm upwards grasp. This time we're ready to open the right side of the chest towards the ceiling, right shoulder blade in, and the left arm comes up and overhead. And we make that slight correction. Lift the left arm a little bit more. See if you can bring it back slightly. And then chin up, look up. My goodness, that's a big stretch. Inhale and come up. And let's extend the legs out. And bring your legs all the way together. Use your inner thigh muscles to squeeze the thighs in. keep the inner edges of your feet together, and then imaginary wall in front of your feet. Push out through the pads of the toes, push out through the heel bones. And now lift up, open up the sides of your chest. And then release. And we will go to the wall for the legs up the wall variations. And I've got a variation on our blankets. So have a look. I found this way of placing my blankets really supportive and comfortable. So you might want to try something new here. One folded blanket is going to be in a long shape, like that, the yoga blanket, and the end of it right up against the wall. The second blanket is that threefold, that's the one that I was sitting on, and I'm going to place that at the wall with a little gap. I always put either my bolster, 4-finger gap away from the wall. So I've got those two stacked. And then you've done this with a bolster before, or sometimes you can do this propless. But like I said, for today, I'm looking for a comfortable position. So finding your way to the wall with your legs up. And it always seems to be the case that there's a little gap between your buttock bones and the wall. So we can push in, lift your buttocks and push in. I'm almost there. Elbow walking is also good. And we've done such really lovely work with hamstring stretches in those forward fold positions. So the backs of the thighs either against the wall or very close to the wall, and the legs straight up. Find a way to have your arms out to the side and loose at the elbows. And instead of working the pose, now we're going to bring as much release into these variations as possible. And the first variation is the splits. So allow the legs to open out. And you might find this happens to me, is the longer that I leave the legs in this position, the more that they soften and drop out. And there's always the place where the movement will cease. But while that's happening, see if you can bring your weight onto your heel bones. So right in the center of your heel bones. So there's not so much external rotation of your feet and your legs and your hips. So staying on your heel bones. Notice if your tailbone is lifting, and see if in this position you can move the tailbone towards the wall and downwards. We want it to drop down. And we'll stay for a little while longer. I'm noticing that it seems like there's more stiffness in my left leg than my right leg. We always have these differences between the two sides. I don't think I've met anybody who doesn't experience that to some degree. And the next variation is Baddha Konasana. So we did this on the floor, bringing the soles of your feet together and allowing the knees to be wide. We could bring the hands, palms pressing against the inner thighs, inner knees. Not much pressure, but just a light pressure there. Even here, tailbone towards the floor. You can always relieve any pressure onto your knees by having your heels a little further away from your pubic bone. And lastly, let's bring the legs all the way upwards. If your hamstrings are tight, it's fine to keep a little knee bend. Otherwise, work to straighten the legs for this one last time of a hamstring stretch. It's possible at this point just to rest your hands onto your torso. Legs up the wall, Viparita Karani is a more reflective pose. So feel that placing of the hands onto the torso connects you with the breath and the easy rhythm of your breath. And you might begin to think about moving before you actually do. And on the way out of the pose, bending the legs. Once the legs are bent and your feet are still on the wall, you can push back towards the center of the room and lower down off the props or pull the props off to the side. With your legs bent and your feet on the floor, pause for a moment before we roll to the side and then come up to a seated position. Let's take up a seated position on our support. In cross-legged position, sitting in hero pose and sitting on your Heels is another option. And then take a moment and do a little hip rocking side to side. And sitting tall, stable through your base. Feel your feet, your legs, your buttocks supporting you. Let your hands rest lightly onto your legs, palms down or palms up. Draw your elbows all the way back towards your waist. And then gently close your eyes or lower your gaze towards the floor. Keep your chin level with the ground at this time. Soften your facial features. From your hairline to your eyebrows, the forehead is deep and broad out towards the side hairline and your temples. And your gaze is soft downwards and looking down into the heart. Shoulders completely relaxed, and feel the support through the dorsal thoracic with a slight retraction of your shoulder blades to help you lift and open the sternum, the front of your lungs. And finally, in all these adjustments that you've made, these very careful and thoughtful and considered adjustments to your posture, bring your hands together in prayer position in front of your chest. Lift your elbows a little bit. And now do incline your head towards your heart. The heart is elevated and the gaze cast down now into the heart center. Feel the way that the yoga practice funds the warmth of your heart, an opportunity to feel into the goodness of your own heart. And that's what we want to extend outwards as well. So the practice isn't just for ourselves, but it's for everyone, for the environment, for our pets, for the wider community. And we say namaste. Thank you.